Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Big day today, Glendale, Arizona, Charlie Kirk Memorial. I'm calling it a revival because it certainly has that tone to it. We're going to go live there right now where President Trump is speaking.
Charlie, to kill anybody, but to kill a man like this, he didn't deserve this. He didn't deserve this. Our country didn't deserve this. And anyone who would make excuses for it are just out of their mind. Charlie's murder was not just an attack on one man or one movement. It was an attack on our entire nation. That was a horrible attack on the United States of America. It was an assault on our most sacred liberties and God-given rights. The gun was pointed at him, but the bullet was aimed at all of us. That bullet was aimed at every one of us. Indeed, Charlie was killed for expressing the very ideas that virtually everyone in this arena and most other places throughout our country deeply believed in. But the assassin failed in his quest because Charlie's message has not been silenced. It now is bigger and better and stronger than ever before, and it's not even close. And it's rare that such a thing happens, but Charlie is bigger today than he was, think about it, just 2 weeks ago. He's bigger today than he was 2 weeks ago. Now, that may not help his friends and loved ones, of which there are so many. It may not help Erika and those beautiful children who have to suffer so horribly through this moment, but they know it's true. He's bigger now than ever before, and he's eternal. He's eternal. And I just want to say we love him. And he's looking down at us right now, and he's saying, wow, that's a great crowd. He's saying, that's a great crowd. And it's a great crowd of patriots. But that's why I will soon award Charlie the nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. It's the highest civilian honor. And we will do the ceremony at our beautiful White House in a very safe Washington, D.C., a place that Charlie truly revered. You know, we stopped the crime in Washington, took 12 days. Now you can go to restaurants, you can walk down the middle of the street with your wife. You can have your wife walk alone down the middle of the street. She's going to be in good shape. What a difference. What a difference good management really makes. But it's, I'm so proud of that Washington, D.C. You know, it's one of the worst in the nation, in the world. And now it's considered a very safe city. And it's also, I passed it yesterday, I went through it, and the lawns are good. It's like a different place. It's like the tents are gone, the threats are gone, the gangs aren't there. We got rid of, you know, we took out 1,500 career criminals, 1,500. If you have 3 career criminals, that can make a big difference. But I'm so proud of Washington, D.C., and now we're going into Memphis. And we'll get that one straightened out fast. And then we're going into some others, but we're going to go to Chicago, and we're going to have Charlie very much in mind when we go into Chicago. And we'll get that one straightened out. You have an incompetent governor who, he thinks it's okay when 11 people get murdered over the weekend. He thinks you don't have any crime when 11 people get murdered and 28 people get shot. He says he's got crime. No, they don't have it under control, but we'll have it under control very quickly. So we're going to be doing that. And Charlie loved what we were doing. He was so proud of what happened. He was there to see it. He's so proud of what happened in Washington, D.C. As you know, the depraved assassin who planned and executed Charlie's killing has been arrested and charged with capital murder. God willing, he will receive the full and ultimate punishment for his horrific crime. It's a terrible thing. Because you can't let that happen. You can't let that happen. Can't let it happen to a country. The Department of Justice is also investigating networks of radical left maniacs who fund, organize, fuel, and perpetrate political violence. And we think we know who many of them are. But law enforcement can only be the beginning of our response to Charlie's murder. Over the last 11 days, we have heard stories of commentators, influencers, and others in our society who greeted his assassination with sick approval, excuses, or even jubilation. You've heard that. So have I. Couldn't believe it. Some of the very same people who spent the last 8 years trying to sit in moral judgment of anyone who disagreed with them about politics suddenly started cheering for a murder. Incredible. You know the names. They're major losers, by the way. That will be proven out in a short period of time. Some of the very people who call you a hater for using the wrong pronoun were filled with glee at the killing of a father with 2 beautiful young children. And the same commentators who this week are screaming fascism over a canceled late-night TV show where the anchor had no talent and no ratings, last week were implying that Charlie Kirk deserved what happened to him. No side in American politics has a monopoly on disturbed or misguided people. But there's one part of our political community which believes they have a monopoly on truth, goodness, and virtue, and concludes they have also a monopoly on power, thought, and speech. Well, that's not happening anymore. We've turned that corner very quickly. Tragically, atrocities of this kind, and kind that we saw in Utah, of all places, are the eventual consequence of that kind of thinking. If speech is violence, then some are bound to conclude that violence is justified to stop speech. And we're not going to let that be justified. The tradition of reason and open debate that Charlie practiced is not a pillar of our democracy. In many ways, it's the basis of our entire society. It's the right and inheritance of every free American, the greatest legacy of the Enlightenment, and among the most treasured achievements of civilization. We will defend it at all costs, and we will carry forward the torch of liberty that Charlie Kirk held so proud and so high. He was so proud, and he did hold that torch high. We will never, ever let it fail. We will never let it fail. But we're going to raise it higher than ever before. It's going to be raised, and this is the beginning. Perhaps it should be no surprise that Charlie, who spent his life speaking with the critics of these traditions, ultimately became convinced that we needed not just a political realignment, but also a spiritual reawakening. We did. And we have to bring back religion to America, because without borders, law and order, and religion, you really don't have a country anymore. We want religion brought back to America. We want to bring God back into our beautiful USA like never before. We want God back. Charlie would have been so pleased to hear his friends and colleagues today giving testimony and giving glory to God. Within minutes of the gunshot in Utah, millions of Americans, young and old, heard the news and dropped to their knees and started praying. Even many who rarely prayed asked God for a miracle. Please, God, save Charlie. But although Charlie's time with us on earth has ended, those prayers for a miracle have already been answered. Look at what's happening. Look at what's happening. In the days since Charlie's death, we have seen how his legacy has touched so many millions around the world. In Calgary, Canada, thousands gathered at City Hall to sing the American national anthem and raise up posters with the name Charlie Kirk. In Seoul, South Korea, crowds gathered to wave American flags and shout, "We are for Charlie Kirk." His memory has been honored in the streets of Berlin, Warsaw, Vienna, Sydney, Madrid, London, Tel Aviv, and all over the world. So beautiful to watch. A man as far away as rural Australia texted a pastor, "I'm going to come to church tomorrow for the first time ever." The pastor asked, "Why is that?" The man replied, "Because of Charlie Kirk." Can you imagine? The lesson of Charlie's life is that you should never underestimate what one person can do with a good heart, a righteous cause, a cheerful spirit, and the will to fight, fight, fight. Have to fight. We're saving our country. And Charlie's a big factor, such a big factor. Charlie Kirk started with only an idea to change minds on college campuses, and instead he ended up with a far greater achievement, changing history. He changed history. Today, Charlie Kirk rests in glory in heaven for all eternity. He has gone from speaking on campuses in Wisconsin to kneeling at the throne of God, where he is right now. We grieve for the friend and leader that we have lost, but we go forward strengthened by his faith and bolstered by his courage and inspired by his example to defend the country he lived for the freedoms he died for, and the values in which he so deeply believed. He believed in values that we should all believe in. Charlie created something very special. It's called Turning Point USA. And under the leadership and love of Erika, it will become bigger and better and stronger than ever before. So, Charlie, we all want to thank you. We want to say a very loud God bless you, Charlie. God bless you for what you've done is incredible. And God bless Erika and the children. God bless the United States of America. And could I ask Erika, please come out. Erika, please come out. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, and good luck. God be with you. Thank you.
So we're told you have about 95,000 to 100,000 people in attendance in Glendale, Arizona tonight. Heavy security and a day-long event. that, as I say, was more like a spiritual revival than just a memorial. It was also very political, with many political figures speaking, but that to be expected, given that Charlie Kirk has been a very prominent conservative political figure in America, and was from the time he was a youth, still young at the time of his killing. And this has been, I would say, politicized today and prior to this, so that it has become a worldwide moment, milestone in American and even world history. How much this will be remembered decades from now remains to be seen, but at the moment, it is the main story out there. It is what everyone is talking about. All eyes were on Glendale, Arizona today and tonight, as we just witnessed. Let's take a little break. We're going to come back on the other side now that the speeches have ended and people are filing out and beginning to make their way home. We'll go back and review some of the other highlights and main points from today's Charlie Kirk Memorial in Glendale, Arizona. We also have today's other top news stories to dig into, so don't go away. We'll be right back on the other side of this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, we're back. So, as I say, it was a day of politics as much as remembrance for Charlie Kirk. Let's just backtrack. Let's start with some of the comments that Erika Kirk made. We'll rewind a little bit and give you some of that, because I think that resonated with the crowd more than any of the other speeches today, especially even President Trump, who I would say gave a speech that certainly honored Charlie Kirk, but not unexpectedly, it was also very political. Here's Erika Kirk.
13 years ago, I hadn't met him yet. He was 18 years old. A man barely out of high school, running around the halls of the RNC without $1 in his pocket and a single contact in his phone. People who saw him said that he didn't know what he was doing, but he did. He did know what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was going to change the world, and he did. Charlie's life was a turning point for this country. It was a miracle. Let that miracle, that was Charlie's life, be your turning point as well. Choose prayer. Choose courage. Choose beauty. choose adventure, choose family, choose a life of faith. Most importantly, choose Christ. I love you, Charlie, baby. And I will make you proud. God bless you all, and God bless America.
So as I say, I think that resonated more with the audience than pretty much any other speaker. Here's a little bit of J.D. Vance. Hang on just a moment. Okay. We may have lost it. May have lost the feed. Hang on a second. Take a little break, and I'll get it for you on the other side. Hang on.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, here's the J.D. Vance.
It was the vehicle for bringing the light of truth to dark places. And Charlie Kirk brought many truths in his life. Charlie brought the truth that young people deserved a stake in the future and that they deserved to have a voice. He brought the truth that marriage and family were the highest callings, far more important than any job or educational credential. He brought the truth that our nation would fade unless it brought order to its neighborhoods and prosperity to its people. He brought the truth that life was precious, and we must fight to protect it at all stages and at all times. But most of all, Charlie brought the truth that Jesus Christ was the King of Kings and that all truth flowed from this first and most important one. But Charlie, he did so much more than tell the truth, he lived it. Charlie understood that the best evangelization was not in what you said, but in how you lived your life. And in this city, he lived his life well. He raised a wonderful family. He had a beautiful wife, 2 beloved children, and a loving and godly home. In this, he showed us the importance of family. He lived 3 decades he had on this earth with a sense of Christian virtue that would make any man, any person proud. And in this, he showed the importance of following God. He was a kind-hearted man, a hard-working person, and any parent would be proud to have him as a son. In this, he showed the virtue of industriousness. He was present and loving as any child would hope of his or her father, and in this, he showed the importance of strong Christian fatherhood. He was fearless and he was bold as any follower would hope would be true of a leader. And in this, he showed all of us how to carry on after his death. You know, Charlie Kirk, he loved history. He devoured the ideas that formed the foundation of our civilization. He stood for a tradition that Socrates established 2,500 years ago: to question, to search, and to teach. He was Athens and Jerusalem, the city of reason and the city of God in one person. But if he loved those places, they were not his home. America was his home, and he was willing to die for it. You know, Charlie, he loved this country with a contagious intensity. Anybody who talked to him knew it and felt it. He knew that America was a beautiful place and we had these incredible ideas, but he also knew that our country was a covenant between the generations past, present, and future. He believed this country's best days were not behind us, but ahead of us. But he knew those better days would have to be earned. They would have to be worked for. We would have to sacrifice and work and tell the truth. He knew that America wouldn't be saved just by pulling together seminars or talking about the right kind of books in front of the right kind of people. The movement which he created demanded more. It demanded courage. It demanded hard work. It demanded building, and it demanded leaders. And my friends, in Charlie Kirk, we found a great American leader. Now, our whole administration is here, but not just because we love Charlie as a friend, even though we did, but because we know we wouldn't be here without him. Charlie built an organization that reshaped the balance of our politics. Turning Point brought millions of young people into conversation with one another, brought millions of people into advocacy. He asked of us, not just that we talk about saving our country, but that we actually go and do it, and we do it together. But even as Charlie built on a grand scale, his greatness was never only in his ambition. It was measured in the everyday moments as well, in the way that he treated ordinary people each and every single day. You know, you learn a lot about someone by how they treat others when the cameras aren't on. Charlie treated staffers as well as he treated the President of the United States. When I was just a guy polling at nothing in my Senate race back in 2021, Charlie helped me, not because I was a future vice president, but because I was a dear friend. I saw just a couple of months ago when a White House staffer struggled with the weight of his job and the responsibilities of new fatherhood. Charlie stopped what he was doing in the hallways of the West Wing and said a prayer for that staffer. Because Charlie believed that we were all children of God, he treated everyone with grace. And that is perhaps the enduring legacy of Charlie Kirk. You know, I was telling somebody backstage that I always felt a little uncomfortable talking about my faith in public as much as I loved the Lord and as much as it was an important part of my life. I have talked more about Jesus Christ in the past 2 weeks than I have my entire time in public life. And that is an undeniable legacy of the great Charlie Kirk. You know, he loved God. And because he loved God, he wanted to understand God's creation and the men and women made in his image. Now, much has been said over the last week about Charlie's ability to approach any topic, any person in good faith, an achievement that was only possible because Charlie knew that we were all children of God. He knew deep down the truth of Scripture. And from that confidence, everything else flowed. That unshakable belief in the gospel led him to see differences in opinion, not as battlefields to conquer, but as way stations in the pursuit of truth. He knew it was right to love others, your neighbor, your interlocutor, your enemy. But he also understood his duty to say what is right and what is wrong, to distinguish what is false from what is true. Charlie was slain doing what he loved, telling the truth, proclaiming his faith, building out a dream. And now he's gone, and our hearts feel so empty because he's been taken from us. He's been taken from his parents and from his sister. He's been taken from our darling Erika and their beautiful children. And Erika, I know I speak for this entire auditorium when I say that we love you and we will never stop standing by your side, just as Charlie did. He was taken from us by those who despise the virtues that actually made our civilization great to begin with: dialogue, truth-seeking, family, and faith. In the wake of his death, we have seen some of the very worst parts of humanity. We have watched people slander him. We have watched people justify his murder and celebrate his death. I know that this makes you angry just as it has made me angry. But it is easy in these moments to see only the worst of our fellow man. I found myself wishing that I could pick up the phone and talk to my friend and ask him for his advice and his counsel, to ask him how to respond to such hate and the souls from which that hate springs. But I can't call my friend because he was murdered for speaking the truth. I can only guess at what he might say and what he would encourage me to do. And here's what I think. I think he would encourage me to be honest that evil still walks among us, not to ignore it for the sake of a fake kumbaya moment, but to address it head on and honestly as the sickness that it is. But I also think he would encourage me, he would encourage all of us to focus on the good. He would encourage us to remember that for every hateful voice celebrating his murder, there are 1,000 people mourning it and fighting for his legacy every single day. He would tell me to pray. I'm certain of it. He would tell me to pray for my friends, but also for my enemies. He would tell me to put on the full armor of God and get back to work. He would tell us to commit ourselves to telling the truth and to fight for that truth each and every single day. He would tell us to talk about God's love and the fact that that love applied everybody across the whole human family. Charlie suffered a terrible fate, my friends. We all know it. We all saw it. But think, it is not the worst fate. It is better to face a gunman than to live your life afraid to speak the truth. It is better to be persecuted for your faith than to deny the kingship of Christ. It is better to die a young man in this world than to sell your soul for an easy life with no purpose, no risk, no love, and no truth. Christ told us in the Gospel of John, "I have said these things to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but take heart. I have overcome the world." Charlie took heart, and now we must do the same. I've seen so many of you say, so many on social media, talk about for Charlie. We must do this for Charlie. For Charlie, we will speak the truth every single day. For Charlie, we will rebuild this United States of America to greatness. For Charlie, we will never shrink, we will never cower, and we will never falter, even when staring down the barrel of a gun. For Charlie, we will remember that it is better to stand on our feet defending the United States of America and defending the truth than it is to die on our knees. My friends, for Charlie, we must remember that he is a hero to the United States of America and he is a martyr for the Christian faith. May our Heavenly Father give us the courage to live as Charlie lived. That is what we must do for Charlie. You ran a good race, my friend. I love you. We've got it from here. Thank you.
And the reference to Charlie Kirk as a martyr, I think, is important. That is central to what we've seen since his assassination, where they have been using him as a martyr, as a figure to rally around and fuel this politicization of his killing. And nobody is doing that more than Stephen Miller, who, frankly, I think is looking for, well, he's using this as a pretext for political revenge. That's my opinion.
We'll defeat the dark. We will prevail over the forces of wickedness and evil. They cannot imagine what they have awakened. They cannot conceive of the army that they have arisen in all of us. Because we stand for what is good, what is virtuous, what is noble. And to those trying to incite violence against us, those trying to foment hatred against us, what do you have? You have nothing. You are nothing. You are wickedness, you are jealousy, you are envy, you are hatred. You are nothing. You can build nothing. You can produce nothing. You can create nothing. We are the ones who build. We are the ones who create. We are the ones who lift up humanity. You thought you could kill Charlie Kirk? You have made him immortal. You have immortalized Charlie Kirk. And now millions will carry on his legacy. And we will devote the rest of our lives to finishing the causes for which Charlie gave his last measure of devotion. You cannot defeat us, you cannot slow us, you cannot stop us, you cannot deter us. We will carry Charlie and Erika in our heart every single day and fight that much harder because of what you did to us. You have no idea the dragon you have awakened. You have no idea how determined we will be to save this civilization, to save the West, to save this republic.
I'm getting the idea. The words from Erika Kirk today, not quite so, shall we say, radical. More, here it is. Here she is. I'm going to go back to this, where she says she forgives his killer.
My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men, just like the one who took his life. That young man. On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him. I forgive him because it was what Christ did and is what Charlie would do. The answer to hate is not hate. The answer we know from the gospel is love, and always love. Love for our enemies and love for those who persecute us.
Significantly different tone and message from her to what we just heard from Stephen Miller. Others saying, I mean, this whole event today steeped in religion, and some are saying this was a miracle, that was a miracle, and one of those miracles was seeing President Trump and Elon Musk sitting next to each other. There's some people saying it's a miracle. They brought these guys back together again. And we know they had something of a falling out, but I wondered really how much of a falling out really was it. Musk spending, what, $750 billion to get Trump elected? I guess he paid for that seat, even if they had a falling out. He's still in there. And Tucker Carlson, I believe, also spoke. We have him queued up here. One moment. And yeah, and like many other conservative or right-wing influencers, he has been guest hosting over on the Charlie Kirk show. Here's what he had to say today.
Not a call for being politically passive? Of course not. I stood on many stages with Charlie calling for various people to be elected, particularly Donald Trump. And I'm proud of that. It's only an acknowledgement that what Charlie was really saying is that change begins, the only change that matters, when we repent of our sins. We, me. A recognition that the real problem is me and how fallen I am. And that was the reason that Charlie was fearless at all times, truly fearless. To his last moment, he was unafraid, he was not defensive, and there was no hate in his heart. I know that because I've got a little hate compartment in my heart, and I would often express that to Charlie about various people, and he would always say, that's a sad person, that's a broken person, that's a person who needs help, that's a person who needs Jesus. He said that in private because he meant it. So I guess I would just say this gathering and God's presence, God's very obvious presence in this room, the presence of Jesus, is a reminder of what we've known for 2,000 years, which is any attempt to extinguish the light causes it to burn brighter. Every single time. So as we proceed into whatever comes next, and clearly something's coming next, remember this moment. Remember being in a room with the Holy Spirit humming like a tuning fork. This is the way. Right here. This is the way. And that is what Charlie Kirk was saying underneath it all. Thank you, and God bless.
And did you hear him say, and clearly something is coming next? What is coming next? That's the question. And what is the something? I'm seeing a lot of signs that, yeah, there's something coming, and a lot of it has me very, very concerned, because a lot of it just doesn't sound very positive or forgiving at all. So those were some of the main points that I think were made today during this massive memorial service for Charlie Kirk in Glendale, Arizona. And it went off, I think, pretty much without a hitch. I know security was very, very tight. And I will show you this as well. Some of this, honestly, to me, felt a little strange, but politics is in itself a little bit weird sometimes. I'm not sure how much of it is even based on reality anymore. And certainly it's performative. And we saw something of a performance outside today as the crowd gathered. And we saw snipers on the roof of a building. And this is something a lot of people are referring to. This has been posted, being shared, kind of gone viral. When you see these snipers kind of, waving to the crowd, and in a positive way, I would say, or whatever, sort of getting them excited. So I can't say that I've seen something like that, quite like that before. Normally, snipers would be very low key and would not engage at the crowd like that, but that's what happened at the Charlie Kirk Memorial, or you could say revival. I think that's an appropriate word. That's even a word that President Trump used today, and steeped, as I say, in religion. Here's an influencer who spoke today who is very, Christian oriented. Benny from the Benny Show. Also, I think he's been at times guest hosting the Charlie Kirk Show, along with some of these other conservative celebrities. Here's part of what he had to say.
Charlie always had that revival energy, didn't he? When Charlie first met me, I was a degenerate loser. I'm still a loser, but I was addicted to alcohol. I had no wife. I had no kids. I had nothing going for me. After 10 years of work with Charlie Kirk, after his witnessing to my life, I have become a Christ-centered man. I am happily married to the woman of my dreams, sitting right there with our youngest son, who just turned 8 today, 8 months. And he's wearing ducks for Charlie's beloved Oregon Ducks today. That's baby Whitaker, in honor of Charlie. All of you had a Charlie moment in your life, didn't you? Raise your hand if Charlie Kirk centered you a little closer to Christ. Did Charlie help you achieve your American dream a little bit more? Did Charlie have that effect? Look at every single hand. Stand up. Say amen if Charlie Kirk had that effect on your life. Look at this. 100,000 Americans, millions watching online, standing up and saying, that is the revival spirit of Charlie Kirk's life. And that is the power of martyrdom. Because Charlie Kirk is a martyr in the true Christian tradition. If you take out a tyrant, his power goes away. You cut down a martyr, his power grows. And that's what we see. Time and time again, we're seeing it across this country. Who's seen the full churches, the full parking lots? Who knows somebody now who's a Satanist or an agnostic, who's now looking at Charlie's life in this revival moment in our country and going, maybe I got it all wrong. Maybe I do need to Christ center my life. This is what Charlie always wanted. This is how he wanted to be remembered. In the mold of Stephen, the first martyr, Stephen was killed for speaking the truth about Christ, much like Charlie Kirk. The martyr Stephen was the same age as Charlie Kirk when he was martyred. At that time, Christianity was just a few very scared Christians in Jerusalem. And after Stephen's martyrdom, Christianity spread throughout the known world. The power of martyrdom. This is how God and Christ always advances his kingdom, and he's doing it right now with Charlie Kirk. It is a wonderful thing to see. We were all witness to a miracle. Charlie's life was a miracle. We could all see it. Those who worked up close and those who watched from far away. We got to witness a miracle in Charlie's life. Someone who was there that day when Stephen was martyred was Saul. Saul was the one who was taking the garments so that Stephen could be killed. And through Stephen's martyrdom, the Apostle Paul was reached by Christ to go out and write the majority of the New Testament. There was no one who was irredeemable. And that is what Charlie would have wanted us to know about his faith in Jesus Christ. The power of Christ's blood and the power of martyrdom speaks through Charlie. The Apostle Paul would go on to write the book of Romans. And I'd just like to close with this. In Romans 13, the Apostle Paul talks about a godly government instituted by our Lord and Savior. And what does he describe? The Apostle Paul describes how God establishes the rulers of the nations. In the audience right now, there are rulers of our land. Represented right here is the State Department, the Department of War, the Department of Justice, the Chief Executive. God has instituted them. God has given them power over our nation and our land. God saved our president, President Trump, from an assassin's bullet for this moment. And what does the Apostle Paul in Romans say about godly leadership? He says that rulers wield the sword for the protection of good men and for the terror of evil men. May we pray that our rulers here, rightfully instituted and given power by our God, wield the sword for the terror of evil men in our nation in Charlie's memory. I want to live in a country where the evil are terrified and where the good and the faithful and the moral people of our nation can live in peace, debate in peace, disagree in peace, and start families in peace. And so we want to thank the administration for being here and carrying out that godly mission of wielding the sword against evil. In conclusion, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this to all of the young men in the audience, and I can see so many young men out there. Charlie really reached young men and women, but this is the advice that Charlie gave me. Center your life on Christ. Fall in love. Get married. Have 1 million kids. And live out your American dream.
Okay, we're going to take a break, and I'm going to need some time to process everything I've heard today. There was a lot there, some of it inspirational, some of it concerning. Maybe we'll talk about them more tomorrow, but we have other news stories to highlight tonight, other top news stories of the day, which we will get into when we come back after this.
The information war is raging. Truth without integrity is worth nothing. Maverick News. Because those who have power and those who seek it must be held accountable.
The world is watching.
Join our family of truth seekers. Donate today and add your voice to the chorus of Maverick Knights. Donate at maverickdonations.com. Truth. Integrity. It's the Maverick way. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, other top news stories. We're going to talk about UK, Australia, Canada recognizing Palestine as a state. But before we do that, because this is really tied into what we have just been highlighting, the Charlie Kirk Memorial and Revival, there have been some shootings in the U.S. where more people have been killed in senseless violence. This one out of New Hampshire, overnight, one suspected gunman arrested, and we have at least one person dead, and I believe some others injured as well. A 23-year-old Hunter Nadeau is accused of shooting and killing Robert Stephen DeCesar, 59 years old, with a handgun. No known connection between the two. And in this incident, 2 other adults were wounded. Now, I highlight this because in this social media post, and this ties into what we've been hearing out of Arizona at the Charlie Kirk revival, they're blaming this on a radical leftist. If you take a look on X tonight, this is the dapper detective, whoever is behind that X account, says 1 dead, multiple injured at a New Hampshire country club after a radical leftist screamed "Free, free Palestine" and started shooting. Leftists are all homicidal sociopaths. It says here's, I believe, the ABC affiliate out of that area.
I heard.
So when you say that he was walking to the party, was this actually at the wedding venue?
No, he was not in the wedding venue. He was in the restaurant, and basically he must have came through, went right. It looked like a target that he was going right for this person. So I feel terrible for him.
Did he dress him by name? Did you get the sense that they knew who?
Didn't hear anything. He just came out and said.
What he said?
Yeah, what he said was the children are safe and free Palestine. I heard.
So, see where that goes. All of this being sort of overshadowed by, not sort of, but definitely overshadowed by the memorial today for Charlie Kirk, because that has been dominating the headlines. So this guy, I guess, is a former the shooter, the alleged shooter, former employee of this country club in New Hampshire, and we have the Attorney General queued up here with a clip. Let me bring this up, and we'll get some more details on this. I have not heard this clip yet, so I don't know what he's going to say. I don't know where this social media poster got the information where they're automatically or maybe empirically connecting the shooter to radical leftism, whatever that means. Trump says it's liberalism, progressivism. And here's the Attorney General commenting on this now investigation into the shooting in New Hampshire.
Good afternoon. I'm Attorney General John Formella, and I'm joined here by Nashua Police Chief Kevin Rourke. And we're just here to provide a few updates on our investigation into the tragic shooting that took place last night here in Nashua at Sky Meadow Country Club. I want to start by just saying that our hearts go out to the victims in this case, most importantly, Robert DeCesar and his family and loved ones. Mr. DeCesar was just having dinner with his family at the country club, and his life was tragically taken. So our hearts go out to him and his family. Our hearts go out to the other victims at the event. I just want to provide a little detail there. We had 2 other gunshot victims, as we put in our release earlier. One of those victims was an employee of the restaurant. One of those victims was a patron. We had 4 other individuals suffer non-gunshot wounds. Those 4 individuals were all patrons. Now, the investigation is in the early stages, so it is possible that we may learn of other individuals who suffered wounds as they were trying to leave the club and get out of there. But at this point, that's what we know. We have the deceased, we have 2 other gunshot victims, and we have 4 non-gunshot wounds. Thanks to the quick action of law enforcement and some quick and selfless actions of patrons in the restaurant, this ended up being a fairly contained event. It lasted well under a minute, and it was not nearly as tragic as it could have been. So I want to commend Nashua PD and all of the first responders who were quick to the scene. I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the patrons in the restaurant who acted selflessly and quickly with more care for their fellow citizens than for themselves to help keep this a contained event and minimize this tragedy as much as it could. This is still a very tragic event, but it could have been much worse. I want to talk a little bit about our suspect and now defendant, Hunter Nadeau, 23 years old. He's a Nashua resident, and as we put out earlier this morning, he's been arrested and charged with reckless second-degree murder for shooting Mr. DeCesar. As the investigation continues, we expect that additional charges will be added, but we're in the early stages, and at this point he's been charged with reckless second-degree murder. Mr. Nadeau is, as I said, a Nashua resident. He's a former employee of the club, and I want to talk a little bit about the statements he's made and what we know about his motive. There's been reports that he made certain statements such as Free Palestine, but based on the evidence we have gathered, Mr. Nadeau made a number of statements during the event, and we don't have any evidence at this time that would indicate that Mr. Nadeau was motivated by a hate-based motivation. In fact, I would say that at this point, the evidence leads us to believe that it is more likely that Mr. Nadeau was simply trying to make a number of statements to create chaos in the moment. Again, the investigation's in its early stages, and we're still gathering a lot of information. There were a lot of witnesses present. They heard different things. They saw different things. They had different perspectives. They might remember things differently. But again, at this point, we don't have any evidence to indicate that this was a hate-based act. An autopsy will be conducted tomorrow for Mr. DeCesar by the chief medical examiner, and we expect that Mr. Nadeau will be arraigned in Nashua District Court by WebEx. At this point, we believe that arraignment will take place at 1 p.m. The court could always change its schedule. I want to reemphasize the great work that law enforcement and first responders did last night, both Nashua PD and many other agencies who came to the aid of Nashua PD. I want to again commend the selfless acts of courage by the patrons in the restaurant who, again, put aside care for their own safety and work to intervene and stop the shooter and keep this a much more contained event than it may otherwise have been. The governor has been briefed. We've been briefing the governor all night, so the governor and her team have been briefed on this, and they are aware of the details, and we're in close communication with them. I know she is monitoring this closely. Other state leaders have been kept informed and are monitoring this investigation and this situation. Just want to close by saying I know this has been a really tough last half day or so for the Nashua community and the state and all of the victims affected. Again, our hearts go out to them, and we're going to continue to work to gather information, gather evidence, and get to a point where we understand the motive behind this tragic event. We're still in the early stages, and I can't emphasize that enough. We're still in the early stages. We're less than 24 hours in, but we're going to keep working. We're going to keep gathering the evidence and the information to try to identify what the motive was here. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Rourke for a couple comments, and then we'll take questions.
I'm going to let this roll because I want more
Again, my name is Kevin Rourke, Chief of Police. First, my thoughts and prayers go out to the DeCesar family. This was a senseless act. I would also like to commend those civilians last night who showed quick and selfless action, putting themselves in harm's way. I want to commend the officers of the Nashua Police Department for an incredible job last night. Their teamwork, their courage, and resiliency were amazing. I want to also thank our partners from our local police departments, Manchester, Hollis, Hudson, Merrimack, Hillsborough County Sheriffs, New Hampshire State Police, Mass State Police, our federal partners, the ATF, the FBI, and HSI. We also worked hand in hand with AMR, National Fire Rescue, and the Emergency Management Office from City Hall, who were very instrumental in this investigation. If I forgot an agency, I apologize in advance. This was an incredible response from our officers and our partners. These officers relied on their training. We train a lot. We train for events like this. You have a different amounts of information being reported to you. Put yourself in their shoes. You were told there were multiple shooters on a golf course in the dark, wooded areas, residential area, and then the venue. They responded quickly, swiftly, and effectively. Within 30 minutes, these officers were able to find someone and detain them who ended up being the suspect. That is remarkable. Of events like this you see around the country or the world, to find someone in 30 minutes is pretty effective, pretty efficient, and they did it safely. At this time, we would take questions. I'll end my statement at that point.
Hey, General, you talked about he was a former employee at Sky Meadow. Do you believe he was targeting someone, and did the victim stop that?
We're not prepared to comment on that at this point. Again, we're trying to gather evidence and information related to motive, but the fact that he was a former employee is something we want to look further into.
Was he fired recently?
He hadn't worked there for about a year. I'm not familiar with his employment status when he left.
And the employee that was injured with the gunshot, can you go into more details about his title at the restaurant? Was he a manager?
I'm not going to go into more detail on that at this time.
Can you expand on some of the statements that you said that he also said in addition to Free Palestine?
I'm not going to get into what specific statements he made other than just to reemphasize he was making a lot of different statements, and it appears to us that it's more likely that those statements were intended to create chaos during the event and that they don't really give us much of a sense of his motive.
Where was he found? Could you help kind of separate between the restaurant and the wedding venue? I know there's been a little confusion. I know obviously.
Okay, so we'll have to wait and see, I guess. I don't know how much more we'll talk about this, if at all, in the days ahead, because this is the kind of thing that is going on regularly. There have been other shootings in other cities across the U.S. over the past few days that we haven't spoken about here on this program because we just haven't been able to fit the content in, and everything is being, overshadowed or by the Charlie Kirk story on various levels. And again today, I highlight this because I wanted to just make you aware that we've had more and more shootings. There's another one in Indianapolis. 2 people killed, 5 hurt. Gunfire erupted early this morning in a parking lot of a shopping center in northwest Indianapolis. Happened about 2 a.m. on Shore Terrace. Officers went to the shopping center after receiving a report of a person who was shot there, and they arrived, located 5 victims who all sustained injuries, gunshot wounds. 2 were pronounced dead at the scene, 3 taken to area hospitals. We have a report from, I believe this is Fox 59. Bring it up. This is not live. This is recorded.
Yeah, Zach, they certainly do. They've had a busy night overnight indeed. You did mention a lot of businesses here. There's a bank, a couple clubs over here. A liquor store is right behind me as well. That's where they're really focusing on this shooting here. This is the 6800 block of Shore Terrace Drive. I'll step out of the way because that light is now starting to come up, and we can actually start to see exactly what they are looking at. You can see multiple cars sitting there right through those trees. They've been focusing in that area, taking pictures of that. You can see officers over here to the left near that fence, looking in that fence area. They had markers down earlier. They'd have since picked up those markers, but this is just behind the building. In the front of the building earlier this morning, we showed you just how big the area was. It's this entire parking lot. Again, this is a liquor store here, and then to the left, there's also a lot more businesses there, including Vibes Bar and Lounge. That's here on the northwest side. So police have a large area of investigation to do this morning, trying to figure out exactly what happened. We did have a chance to speak with police. They told us this morning just after 2 o'clock they got multiple calls about gunshots being fired here in this area. When they were en route to this area, they did learn that someone had been shot. They got here on scene and they located 5 people who had been with injuries consistent with gunshot wounds. We do know that a 6th person did arrive at an area fire station. A 7th person then walked into an area hospital. That's where we get the 7 total people that were shot here this morning. We do know that 6 of them were males. 1 of them was a female. 2 males were pronounced dead here on scene. 3 victims, again, transported to hospitals in critical condition. And then those walked-in victims were in serious but stable condition. And again, police say this all took place outside here of this businesses here outside, not inside of any one of these locations. Again, we had a chance to speak with police and PAO Officer William Young this morning. He gave a strong message to the community.
I can't state this enough, to have folks come forth with any information that we can get. If you saw something, please reach out to our detectives. Obviously, you saw throughout this year and last year we made a significant number of homicide arrests or aggravated assaults or violent crimes for that matter. We were able to do that based off the tips and the information that we received from the community.
So again, you heard William Young there. If anyone happens to know anything about this morning's shooting, you are asked to give police a call. You can always remain anonymous in doing so, calling Crime Stoppers at number 317-262-TIPS. But again, Zach, they are still investigating here. They've been here all morning long, really since that 2 o'clock when the first calls came in, and they're still out here doing their investigation work. So again, we're going to continue to press police on some more questions about if we can find out any more information. Once we do learn that, we'll update you here on air and online at fox59.com. We're in Indy's northwest side this morning. I'm Charles Spenberry, Fox 59 News.
So that's what happened in Indianapolis. Then we see the other one, and some social media posters, with certainly the one in New Hampshire, saying, oh, it's radical leftist, jumping to a conclusion or telling us information that is being withheld. I think maybe jumping to conclusions without all the information. We'll have to wait and see. I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the days ahead. I don't know what Tucker Carlson meant exactly when he said, clearly there's something coming next, whatever that meant in his speech at the Charlie Kirk Memorial. That concerns me. That's one of the things I find a little bit disturbing, because I see rhetoric on both sides, all sides of the political spectrum, ramping up and becoming increasingly aggressive, I guess. And of course, everything seems to circle back and then tie into all these, not just domestic, but even international issues, especially, as you've seen just here in New Hampshire, what's going on in Gaza and Palestine, Israel. Well, today, something happened that I think is going to inflame things even more, not just within the populace, but certainly within the circles of power globally, as UK, Australia, Canada, recognizing now Palestine as a state. Here's Keir Starmer addressing this, and this is, Israel not happy about this at all. And I know that for MAGA, for Trump, this is not the U.S. position at this time, so this may create friction.
In the face of the growing horror in the Middle East, we are acting to keep alive the possibility of peace and a two-state solution. That means a safe and secure Israel alongside a viable Palestinian state. At the moment, we have neither. Ordinary people, Israeli and Palestinian, deserve to live in peace, to try to rebuild their lives free from violence and suffering. That's what the British people desperately want to see. Yet, almost 2 years after the barbaric attacks of October the 7th, hostages are still held by the terrorists of Hamas. Recent images show the hostages suffering and emaciated. Hamas even refuse to release all the bodies of the dead. I have met British families of the hostages. I see the torture that they endure each and every day, pain that strikes deep in people's hearts across Israel and here in the United Kingdom. The hostages must be released immediately, and we will keep fighting to bring them home. Let's be frank. Hamas is a brutal terror organization. Our call for a genuine two-state solution is the exact opposite of their hateful vision. So we are clear. This solution is not a reward for Hamas, because it means Hamas can have no future, no role in government, no role in security. And we have already prescribed and sanctioned Hamas, and we will go further. I have directed work to sanction other Hamas figures in the coming weeks. Meanwhile, the man-made humanitarian crisis in Gaza reaches new depths. The Israeli government's relentless and increasing bombardment of Gaza, the offensive of recent weeks, the starvation and devastation are utterly intolerable. Tens of thousands have been killed, including thousands as they tried to collect food and water. This death and destruction horrifies all of us. It must end. We have evacuated the first group of sick and injured children to the United Kingdom to be treated by the NHS, and we continue to increase our humanitarian support. But still, nowhere near enough aid is getting through. We call again on the Israeli government to lift the unacceptable restrictions at the border, stop these cruel tactics, and let the aid surge in. With the actions of Hamas, the Israeli government escalating the conflict, and settlement building being accelerated in the West Bank, the hope of a two-state solution is fading. But we cannot let that light go out. That is why we are building consensus with leaders in the region and beyond around our framework for peace. This is a practical plan to bring people together behind a common vision and a series of steps, including the reform of the Palestinian Authority, that takes us from a ceasefire in Gaza to negotiations on a two-state solution. We will keep driving this forward. As part of this effort, I set out in July the terms upon which we would act in line with our manifesto to recognise Palestinian statehood. That moment has now arrived. So today, to revive the hope of peace and a two-state solution, I state clearly, as Prime Minister of this great country, that the United Kingdom formally recognises the State of Palestine. We recognised the State of Israel more than 75 years ago as a homeland for the Jewish people. Today, we join over 150 countries who recognise a Palestinian state also. A pledge to the Palestinian and Israeli people that there can be a better future. I know the strength of feeling that this conflict provokes. We have seen it on our streets, in our schools, in conversations we've had with friends and family. It has created division. Some have used it to stoke hatred and fear, but that solves nothing. Not only must we reject hate, we must redouble our efforts to combat hatred in all its forms. We must channel our efforts united together in hope behind the peaceful future that we want to see. The release of the hostages, an end to the violence, an end to the suffering, and a shift back towards a two-state solution as the best hope for peace and security for all sides.
Okay, I'm going to take a short break. Be right back on the other side.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Benjamin Netanyahu has responded to Keir Starmer, Canada and Australia, recognizing Palestine as a state. Said his government will fight the global push to recognize Palestinian statehood. He says, we will fight both the UN and in all other arenas against the false propaganda directed at us and the calls to establish a Palestinian state. Which would endanger our existence and constitute an absurd reward for terrorism. The international community will hear from us on this matter in the coming days. The Palestinian foreign minister said state recognition was a practical step by Western nations.
Tomorrow, President Abbas will be addressing the New York mini summit on the implementation of the two states. We expect, hopefully, some 10 countries to recognize the state of Palestine. And this recognition is certainly not symbolic. It is a practical, tangible, irreversible step that countries must take if they are invested in preserving the two-state solution. This also sends a very clear message of hope to the Palestinian people who are facing an existential threat. Israel always claims that we are under an existential threat. Today, it is the Palestinians who are under this existential threat, and we need to raise our voices on this threat. So recognizing our right to life and existence sends a clear message that war, bloodshed, settlement expansion, and annexation will not be tolerated, not by Palestinians, not by the world.
And that's from the Times. They compiled that. This is far from over, obviously. Okay, so speaking of foreign policy, this is nonsensical to me, but I risk editorializing here. I'm gonna just remind you that Trump said for a long time he wanted to get all U.S. troops out of Afghanistan. Didn't want endless wars. And there's some nuance to this, but he now says that he wants the air base, that air base in Afghanistan, the Bagram air base, he wants that back. And he's threatening basically to go to war with Afghanistan if they don't hand it over. The foreign policy of the Trump administration just, it is confusing. It is nonsensical at times, unless you're looking at it through the lens of a complete geopolitical realignment where the world is carved up into basically three spheres of dominance. One for China, one for Russia, dominating all of Eurasia, and the United States dominating the Western Hemisphere. Stick to your own territory. You don't come here. We don't go there. We're going to do what we want in Venezuela. We're going to do what we want in Greenland. Putin is like, yeah, okay, we won't touch that, but you don't come over here and you don't intervene and get too involved in what's going on in Europe as we reassert ourselves into some of these Baltic states that we want back. And we're seeing Trump say, yeah, okay, well, we're going to be, reducing our support for the Baltic states. They're going to be pretty much on their own. And you guys in Europe, you're on your own. We'll sell you weapons and make cash off that. But no, we're not really going to get involved in anything over there. And as much as he's rattling the saber against China, China is absolutely aligned with India, Iran, Russia. So I don't know how serious he is about all of that. And then with this whole thing in Afghanistan, he says that he wants the airbase there back, which is the one that Biden kind of botched the withdrawal at the time. And you saw, some Americans killed as a result of that. Trump always said that he wanted to keep that airbase. Even though he said he wanted to withdraw, he wanted to keep that airbase. He says, or the administration is saying, that that airbase is strategic because they need that in order to have a foothold into the area from which they could be within striking distance, honestly, of China. So there is a method to his madness. If you look at it through that lens, China does certainly pose an existential economic threat to the United States in a way, although I don't know why the two countries can't continue to get along and prosper together. But for whatever reason, there seems to be this zero-sum attitude that prevails. That being said, the Taliban sending a very clear message to Trump in the face of these threats from him, saying, if you don't give us back that airbase, really bad things are going to happen. Well, here's the message that was sent back to President Trump. And I'm not sure, honestly, how far Trump is willing to go to back up this threat in order to take back this airbase. Another point the brother raised, he says here, was whether if America engages with you or recognizes you, you in return would give them Bagram or not. If they recognize us and we completely rebuild Afghanistan, not only will Bagram not be given, but not even a piece of land will be handed over. This matter belongs to the emirate and to the people. If such a proposal exists, then why didn't we accept it 22 years ago? Why did we sacrifice martyrs? Everybody has martyrs these days. Go through exile and lose our leaders as martyrs. Martyrs have always been used for political purposes. What happened was the outcome of that struggle. When we were negotiating in Doha, believe me, says, we were openly telling the Americans and other foreigners from our negotiation team that we will never accept even a single person in your military uniform. Yeah. So he's saying we're a sovereign country, stay the hell out. And I don't know how far Trump is willing to go. What's he going to do to get that base back? Of course, Biden left behind all that military hardware. I don't remember how much that was worth, but it was a huge amount of U.S. military hardware. That'll be used to defend that air base if the Americans try to take it back. Trump, when I say Americans, Trump wants to take that air base back. Trump also, I think in the last 24 to 48 hours, has indicated that the United States built that air base, and that's not even quite true, because I believe that air base was originally constructed by the Soviets when they were in Afghanistan getting their butts kicked, which maybe should have been a lesson to America as it went in there after 9/11. And the other issue here is that, and I am sorry if I'm editorializing, but I'm really just trying to provide some background and analysis on this to help the conversation a little bit. But if you think about it, after 9/11 and the hunt, and then we got into the hunt for Osama bin Laden, there at least seemed to be some justification for the United States to go into Afghanistan with its allies, including Canada. But what now? Now that the United States has pulled out of Afghanistan, which is what Trump said that he wanted, now he wants to go back in and take that airbase back. And people are just the MAGA crowd, which has been, which was, yeah, we have to get all the troops out. You were adamant about that. Everybody on the MAGA side pointing to that issue, saying that it was Trump who was going to get the United States out and that Biden didn't do it right. But that's what everybody wanted, right? You wanted to pull back. You didn't want the United States involved in these countries at all anymore. So finally, the U.S. pulls out. Now Trump is threatening to go back in. And I see so many people on the MAGA side now saying, yeah, America first, USA, USA, take it back. It belongs to us. We want it back. What? Like the Panama Canal, like Greenland, and they're just cheering mindlessly for this. This seems to me to be foreign policy that is not only dangerous, but also in this particular case, completely unjustified. There's no way to, in my mind, unless I'm missing something, is there some legal or moral justification at this point for the United States to go in there and use, if necessary, military force to retake an airbase in Afghanistan, where the United States just came out after 20 years of bloodshed and turmoil and cost? And pulling out, you could argue that it might have been a mistake to completely pull out. I can buy an argument for that if you want to make sure that the country remains stable, so that you make sure that people there are safe, that the country is stable, that people have good governance, so that they're clothed and fed and have schools and people aren't being shot in the streets and they're not living under some sort of a autocratic, dictatorial, authoritarian, tyrannical government where they're suffering. But the U.S. is out. They just got out. Trump's back into power. Now he wants to go back in. Or I don't know if he wants to, but he's threatening to unless he gets what he wants. And if he's not serious about it, then this is just going to be one more situation where, Trump tacos out again? Chickens out? And what does that say about the United States? And what Trump is really all about. I think that his credibility is on the line here with this one, and his judgment, but he seems pretty adamant about it. And with the emotions running the way they are right now, I'm not sure that the MAGA base or even the MAGA fringers or the people who just support him at this point are even thinking clearly. It just seems like there's a mindless following that he has. And I don't like to use the word cult, but if you're just following somebody around mindlessly saying, yep, he's right, he's always right, Trump is always, or this guy's always, it doesn't matter who it is. It could be a religious leader or somebody else telling you to drink the poison Kool-Aid. I've done my research. I watched the videos on YouTube. Have you really done the research? Do you really understand what you're calling for here? Do people understand how dangerous and potentially destabilizing going back into Afghanistan could be? The Soviets got their butts kicked in Afghanistan. Then the United States comes in later, and that wasn't supposed to go on as long as it did. They were there for 20 years. Now he's saying, oh, we better go back and take that base. Yeah, well, better be careful what you call for, what you ask for. You might not get it. And then what happens? Well, then we're going in. Are you? What's going to be a special military operation? That one's going to take, what, a week? 2 days? And then once you get that air base, then what? Then you have to defend? I don't know, man. For what? It makes no sense. Meanwhile, you see them blowing up these boats out of Venezuela, rattling the saber, even threatening Canada. Oh, it's just that's all hyperbole. Then why say it? It's destabilizing. It undermines confidence, trust, alliances. It fractures partnerships, damages, maybe forever, relationships. It blows the NATO alliance maybe apart. And for what? Well, we'll see, because Tucker Carlson says something is coming next. Whatever the hell that is, that has me worried. I would say keep your head screwed on straight. There is something in the air, isn't there? Yeah, I don't think you have to look too far. Let's just look over here for a moment. What is this? Truth Social, I think, right? Or is it on Twitter? No, this is on X. Okay. Look, this stuff is all over the place, man. People calling for war, people characterizing their political opponents as evil and the enemy. This is dangerous. This post here saying, right here, I've never attended a memorial that required me to keep my head on a swivel to make sure some radical leftist doesn't kill me. And I'm not defending anybody who's crazy enough to go out and get involved in violence, but we continue to see escalation in the streets, escalation in conflicts at what are supposed to be protests that turn into things that are far more than protests. They turn into conflict, straight up conflict, don't we? Oh, like right here. Look, this is the next post on Twitter. As I scroll down, let's do a Twitter scroll. Here's Dacey. Ottawa police have been overrun by, in his words, in bold, radical leftists on Wellington Street. And this was yesterday. This is the climate change protest. Okay, you don't agree with the climate change thing? And he's saying that this is Antifa. Tell me again that Antifa is a figment of my imagination. Yeah, it isn't. They've tried to cloak themselves for a long time saying Antifa isn't really a real thing. Yeah, it is a real thing. And I've called them out saying they're basically like fascists, digital brown shirts, except that they're on the left side. They're the muscle in the streets for the political left activism. Yeah, I'm not Chris Stacey doing his thing out there. I'm just saying I'm just seeing that phrase now thrown around so much, and more concerning and worrying, the word terrorist. And that is really, if you go over to some of the other social media platforms, you see it on X. I see it even more on some of the really on the platforms like Gab, where it's like more dedicated to the political right. And it's just that language of terrorism. And we're seeing it even be used now by people within the Trump administration. But like right here, 3 years ago, Joe Biden gave an address to the nation called Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans a threat to our democracy. Yeah, and that was, over the top too. And that blood red background that he had, that was certainly inflammatory.
Present an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. Now, I want to be very clear up front. Not every Republican, not even the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. Not every Republican embraces their extreme ideology. I know, because I've been able to work with these mainstream Republicans. But there's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans.
So that was his message. That was, how long ago was that now? Was that 2 years ago, 3 years ago? It goes back a ways, doesn't it? I remember that blood red background about 4 years ago. 3 years ago. It was 3 years ago. Yeah, this was the match, it says here, that lit the fire in a radical leftist, which led to the murder of the leader of the MAGA movement 3 years later. So they're blaming Charlie Kirk's assassination on Joe Biden's words. This is why everything is it's spiraling. President Trump has confirmed he supports labeling Antifa and several other radical leftist organizations as terrorist organizations and plans to bring RICO charges against all leftist agitation groups.
Yes, given with all the that's going on with Charlie Kirk's assassination and the left-wing violence going on, do you have plans, and actually this is a great opportunity with all these, do you plan on designating Antifa finally a domestic terror organization?
Well, it's something I would do, yeah. If I have support from the people back here, I think we'd start with Pam, I think. But I would, if you give me, I would do that 100%. And others also, by the way. But Antifa is terrible.
Are there other groups that you can think of?
There are other groups, yeah. There are other groups. We have some pretty radical groups, and they got away with murder. And also, I've been speaking to the Attorney General about bringing RICO against some of the people that you've been reading about that have been putting up millions and millions of dollars for agitation. These aren't protests. These are crimes, what they're doing, where they're throwing bricks at cars of ICE and Border Patrol. And they come in with a beautiful new car. They're so proud. It's Border Patrol, ICE, it's got whatever it is. And they're throwing rocks at it.
Next post. I agree. This is from somebody named Dennis with swords on each side of his name. I agree with JD. There will be no unity with radical leftists and Democrats who celebrate a political assassination of an American, ... I'm done, ... Holy crap, it says, just went off on people who are calling for unity with these lunatic radical leftists. There's no unity with people who celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination. JD had enough. Yeah, it's bad on both sides, man. It's very divided. And then who was it that was saying, I think it was Benny who said at the memorial today that he wants the political opponents who are evil to live in fear. That concerns me, that kind of language. Because if you're no longer going to talk to your political opponent, if you're going to treat them as the enemy, and you can't find a way to live together, then you're going to fight. And how far are you going to take it? Well, we're seeing that language online, and it's ramping up on both sides. But I'm particularly seeing it right now because of the Charlie Kirk killing on the right. and the people there are ramped right up. And they're using the words war, civil war. I go to YouTube and suggested videos. It's just like, oh, here's another one. War, civil war, calling for war. Liberals table new hate crime bill. That's in Canada. That's from a couple of days ago. I'm just scrolling through the YouTube. London erupts, thousands protest Trump's state visit. Yeah, that was back on the 17th. And we saw that Starmer really, for political reasons and out of diplomacy, waited to make the announcement on Palestinian state recognition until today after Trump's state visit, his royal tour, where he got all the photo ops and the red carpet treatment and got to go for his ride in his little golden carriage. Not quite as much today on the Civil War. Oh, there's one right there. Look, I'll just show you. It's everywhere, man. I just had to scroll down one more line, and bam, Civil War. Right there on a thumbnail, headline, YouTube, suggested videos. Of course, it's partly because of what I watch, so it's my viewing history because I watch so much political stuff. But Civil War, 4-star U.S. general. America could face civil war. General Stanley McChrystal. Russia is begging NATO to shoot down their jets. Jake Brewer. I don't know if they want them shot down, but they're certainly probing and testing by flying into NATO airspace, most recently now in Estonia and Poland and Romania. And I've seen some very learned people saying that we are really in a hot war in Europe. We just aren't really acknowledging it here on the U.S. side. Heathrow's cyber attack brings chaos and disruption. Is Putin responsible? Yeah, because it's not just a kinetic war. It's a 5th-generation hybrid war. And this cyber warfare is going on both sides already. And court footage of Charlie Kirk's assassin doesn't add up. Tyler Robinson body language exposed. That's the other side of all this. Oh, Jimmy Kimmel Cancer Culture, Bill Maher, actually defending Trump. He's come to Trump's defense, which since he went to hang out with Trump at the White House, his tone toward Trump has completely changed. He's become a defender. I wonder about Bill Maher and his change in tone in that regard. He's pivoted over to the right of center in the last year and a half. Defending Canada without help from the United States. Your morning, CTV, your morning. Because trust has been violated. Canada not as confident in the relationship with our cousins to the south. It just goes on and on. We're in trouble. I think. Silence tonight. We are all Jimmy Kimmel. Blah, blah, blah. 2 days ago. And back to, the censorship stuff and free speech, that issue. We've seen today Conan O'Brien come out. I think I've got him. I'll just call it back up. Yeah. Conan O'Brien, suspension, it's wrong. Actually, this is from a couple of days ago, but he's kind of like he's sort of I would say in terms of ratings and recognizability, Conan O'Brien, kind of the last in the late night TV show hosts in terms of ratings and profile. There it is. Finally came up. Conan O'Brien says Jimmy Kimmel suspension should disturb everyone. It's wrong. Yeah, O'Brien not as political as a lot of the others, but political, and certainly not getting the attention that, say, Jon Stewart got with his monologue defending Jimmy Kimmel and his suspension or cancellation, whatever that ends up being. And then you go back to YouTube and you see the other thing that's out there as well is all the conspiracy stuff or the truth stuff, however you want to look at it, people questioning the FBI investigation into the Charlie Kirk assassination. And they're honestly, I have to say, I think the investigation has been sloppy. I think the information they have conveyed to the public is full of holes. I'm not buying some of the evidence they are putting out there because it seems inconsistent. So I have doubts. I want more information before I come to any conclusion about what it is they're telling us with regard to this highly political assassination, killing, memorial, and revival. Steeped in religion, faith. What do you believe? Oh, the liberals, they're evil. I'm very worried about it, especially when I hear things like, I want my enemy to live in fear. And when the president of the United States stands up and literally said during that memorial tonight that he hates, used the words, he hates his political opponents, even though he said Charlie Kirk wasn't about that and is probably angry with him looking down from heaven at him. And I've actually called out some politicians using similar rhetoric over the past, year and a half, where I've had some political leaders on the program and I've said who have said that the liberal government is my enemy, is your enemy. They've said Russia's not your enemy, your government is your enemy. And I came back and I said, well, I don't really view it that way. I think that, liberals, I don't think they're my enemy. They may be my neighbor. And I think that is, for me, that's true because I have a lot of liberals that live around here, members of the actual Liberal Party, lots, and I don't consider them my enemy. I go to the grocery store and we don't break out into fisticuffs. We're seeing more of that on the U.S. side, which I want no part of. And yeah, you're seeing this really, I'd say, shaky investigation led by the Kash Patel FBI, and I don't think he has shown himself to be a very strong FBI leader at this point. I think it's partly because of his shaky leadership in that role as the FBI director that has resulted in some of this. I just don't have a lot of confidence in him. I have more confidence in Dan Bongino than I do in Kash Patel. And he's the deputy director. Maybe it should have been the other way around, but in any event, we're seeing right here, Michael Savage destroys Sean Hannity over Charlie Kirk. I haven't watched that video, but I did see part of a separate video from Michael Savage, also a prominent conservative influencer, very MAGA-oriented, who says he just doesn't buy the investigation, doesn't buy the evidence the FBI is putting out with regard to the Charlie Kirk assassination. It's a powder keg still tonight in the U.S. because of this Charlie Kirk killing, and it's going to continue to be that way. Let's hope and pray, folks, that cooler heads prevail, or that cool heads prevail in the end, and that violence is avoided. It just sure seems like some people want some sort of a war. all I can do is sit here and try to give you information that is factual. And everybody throws that word truth around. I'm just going to try to give you facts and perspective that will help get us all closer to the truth, whatever that is. And these days, it's very hard to know what the truth is. And with that, I will leave you with this Maverick and the News Brothers tune, this new one, which is honestly, it's already become one of my favorites out of our collection of creations, musical creations. This one is It's All Fake. I will see you back here tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, on the flip side.
Charlie's alive. Elvis flips burgers on the Lower East Side. 10 Trumps mask up on your phone. Shilling mean coins by remote drone. Graphene needles in your veins. Chemtrail sugar fries your brain. George Floyd's American hologram pie. Don't trust your lying eyes. It's all fake. It's all fake. The moon is a hoax. Give your head a shake. It's all fake. It's all fake. Your mama's a lizard. Your daddy's a snake. Bigfoot codes, the Mossad plan. Flat Earth truckers fighting the man. Dinosaurs guard an empty fed vault. Truth is dead and it's the media's fault. Conspiracies are real, let it sink in. Time travel, JFK is president again. 9/11's a VR game. The elite cut deals in the devil's name. It's all fake. It's all fake. From the jab to the pills that you take. It's all fake. It's all fake. The Pope's in a bunker with Q as his mate. Your phone's a snitch. Your dog's AI. The king eats penguins in conspiracy pie. JFK Jr., Cobain, and Tupac. They ain't dead. They're all coming back. It's all fake. It's all fake. Every headline, every handshake. It's all fake. It's all fake. FBI, CIA, KGB, ABC. Are you awake? Don't believe your lying eyes. It's all fake. It's all fake.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.